All right, Nova Lorraine, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast. I am super excited to connect.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, this one's going to be fun. I mean, you are, well, let's just tell it how it is. I feel like we're, like soul brother and sister here. We're both
Brother and
happy
sister from
hustler.
another mister. That's what we say. Brother and sister from another mister.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I mean, for real though, you're an award-winning fashion designer, founder of Raine Magazine. You're also a new author of the book Unleash Your Supernova, which is coming out next week, March 16th. I can't wait. It's so exciting. I just pre-ordered my copy. You're also a podcast host. You also have a podcast platform. I mean, you're doing so many things, plus a mom of four. I mean, it's amazing how you fit it all in your day, truthfully. But Nova, what is something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
Ooh. You know what? Most people don't know that I speak fluent Spanish.
Muy
And
bien.
sí. Ahora.
Para ahora, vive en Barcelona 9 meses, o solamente español en mi casa ahí.
Oh, qué bueno.
Eh.
Entonces viví en España, en Granada. Asistí a la
Ah, me
universidad.
encanta Granada.
Sí. Qué
Yeah, hey.
bueno.
Tapas con cervezas en Granada, mucho.
Ya, la marcha.
Yep. Well, for all of those happy hustlers who have no clue what we're saying, we're just pretending that my Spanish can keep up with Nova's. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I like that. I mean, it pays to be bilingual. It really does. And Steph, my fiance, is Spanish, so I can practice with her. So I have a little leg up there. But let's dive into this, Nova. I want to kick things off with how to actually beat burnout
Mm.
and boost your creativity, because I know in Unleash Your Supernova you talk about beating burnout, which is one of my favorite things to do, because as a former victim of burnout myself, like having my tech startup in New York City, I burnt myself out. Many people know my story. I want to hear you know from you how to beat burnout and boost creativity. Let's kick things off with a bang.
Yeah. There's so many ways, and there were moments I could, like, if I was going to chunk my life up into, pre-mommyhood, mommyhood, mommy entrepreneurhood, just entrepreneur. There are moments where I was on the verge of burnout, and there were different things that I did to deal with those things. And I would say the most important thing is to recognize when you're running low,
Mm.
because if you can if you can identify those warning signs, like, okay, I'm a little cranky, I'm unmotivated, I'm not getting inspired, what I used to love is lackluster, I'm super tired all the time, whatever those things are, whatever those cues are, like, pay attention to those things. I think mentally and physically our body sort of gives us the warning signs, and a lot of times we're just shrug it off, and then that's when you hit that burnout mode, and then you have to dig yourself out of it. So I
Mm.
think that's the most important. And one point where my family and I made a big shift is we moved from New York to
Mm.
Florida.
Mm.
And if you told me that I was going to live in Florida when I was loving my life in New York, I would have told you were crazy. And I
Yeah.
was one of those people that were a little like, "Oh, Florida, no." Okay. I
Yeah.
was definitely, I was definitely in my Manhattan vibe, Westchester vibe, going back to Westchester at night. And, but I was getting uninspired. New York, I love New York, but it takes as much as it
Oh
gives,
yeah.
And so when that moment hit, I started seeking what are those things that bring me joy. I mean, on the most basic level, and it
Mm.
was more green, more blue. Like, I just wanted
Yep.
more green and blue in my life. That's it.
I love
You
that.
And so we started looking initially on the West Coast, and eventually ended up just a 10-minute walk from the ocean in Florida.
What city are you in?
Well, now I'm not in Florida. Okay,
Oh,
that's
okay.
another story. But no, I'm in Central PA right now. But
Uh,
when we moved, it was, I don't know if you've heard of Melbourne. It
yeah,
was
I know
Central
Melbourne.
Florida, right on the
Yep.
coast, right near Cocoa Beach,
Yep.
actually. And when I said I needed more blue and green, I got it. Like,
Yeah.
literally 10-minute walk in the morning, running to the ocean, running on the beach at sunrise. I couldn't have asked for more, but that's what I needed at that moment in life.
Mm.
And a more recent story this past year. when the lockdowns hit. And as a creative, and you can relate to this because I know you're an actor, an artist, a host, and all these other things as well, writer, author. So as a creative, um, we really need to protect that bubble around us so we can produce that
Mm.
work that's coming from within us, right?
Yep.
As opposed to, let's say I was gardening and I just had to grab my hoe, grab the seeds, grab the fertilizer, and if it's a process that's already laid out in front of me, I wouldn't need that much creativity. But as an entrepreneur, when you are, problem solving, or as an artist, when you are digging within to pull out that work of expression, you really need to protect that bubble around you. And I feel that the lockdown really had an effect initially on my creativity, and I had to dig deeper for that. And the stars aligned where I was enrolled in a graduate course on mindfulness. It
Mm.
was the most perfect timing.
Yeah.
And what it did though is it gave me tools that I could apply in real time to assist on that and giving me that balance that I needed in my environment to allow me to not only get this book deal, to finish writing the book,
Yeah.
and launch a podcast network, launch a school of fashion, all within a pandemic, and so I believe that there are tools that you can implement to help boost, to help jumpstart that space even when you're at the verge of burnout.
I love that. I mean, it kind of reminds me of my epiphany of, hey, I want more nature than people in my life, and I've lived all over, I really have it. I'm so grateful for being able to travel and live in Bangkok, Thailand, and live in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and live in Barcelona, Spain, and Chicago, and LA, and New York, and Miami, and all the things. At the end of the day, where I'm happiest is right where I'm at, which is on a ranch in the middle of Montana with no one else around me, and some of my dogs and my fiance and maybe some kids in the near future. And I created my version of happiness, and Nova did the same. And for you guys out there listening, you have to decide what environment you want to surround yourself in, because our happiness is often dictated by our environment. And yes, it is cultivated from within, but also these external factors play a significant part to the equation. So if you're not happy right now, move. You gotta, if you want more green and blue, like I know Nova was born in Jamaica. She grew up with green and blue. She wanted more green and blue, in her life, the sky, the trees, the parks, like, and you have to realize that in order to really beat the burnout, like Nova said, you got to take stock in where you're at right now. Right. And that was the first thing that really stuck out to me in what you said, is like understanding right now, like taking a true assessment of where you're at in your life and if you're happy or not. Right. Awesome there. Let's talk about actually boosting the creativity piece, because I think that's like, okay, cool, Nova, we beat burnout. Now, how do we like take it to the next level? And like, and you mentioned some of those tactics, but I know you have 101 action steps, which seems like a ridiculously awesome amount. But I'm like, damn, 101 action steps. All right, let's hear some of them.
Yeah, I believe that the increasing creativity and beating burnout are very closely tied together. If you're able to do these different things, you're going to have both, right? You're going to keep that at bay. You're going to keep the stress and anxiety at bay. And then you're going to have more ideas and be more inventive and more spontaneous with those ideas. So I love how you mentioned the environment. I'm going to start there. And so, for those of you that are watching and not listening, you're going to see color, pops of color, sunflowers. I love sunflowers, yellow, marigold yellow, books. I'm a huge book nerd. I'm inspired by books. I have these around me. I have an old school, you can't see it, record player right next to me with the Bob Marley
Oh,
album. Okay. All
dude.
right. Listen, reggae is happy music, reggae, jazz,
I
happy
love reggae.
music. And so, even within your immediate space, if you're not able to physically move today, you can impact how you feel by adjusting what's right in front of you. What are you sitting on? What are you looking at? What are you touching? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And so, if you want more blue and green and you're not in Florida are able to move to all the beautiful places that Cary had mentioned to us, well, maybe place yourself closer to your window, or buy a painting that represents that scenery that you
Mm.
want, or create a collage and put that in front of you. So there are things that you can do right now in your space to make a difference. I say pay attention to your five senses. That's the easiest way to start. And are you doing things or surrounding yourself that tap into those five senses? So, in terms of, well, taste, I mean, I have a cup of tea right next to me and I love tea.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so you have your taste, your smell, your touch, your sight, your hearing, right? So I mentioned I have my record player with my Bob Marley album on cue, ready to go.
Awesome.
I I have a room surrounded by windows so I can hear the birds outside. I intentionally went out and purchased things with texture and color that I loved. And I'm in central Pennsylvania, as I mentioned, so I'm not by the ocean anymore, but I love flowers. So I bought flowers that would last all year round.
Nice.
And then I have my green live plants in front of me. So my point is, do not take advantage of your environment and how that can really impact your mood and how you feel. So that's one
Mm.
thing, is assess your environment. What can you do right now to make a difference? If you love candles, find your favorite scents or fruit, put that in front of you. So these are simple things you can do. The
Love
other
that.
thing is, pick an activity that you can do before you start the day or before you start a project or an important meeting. So this morning, as I mentioned earlier to Cary, I did some yoga stretches. I had my 528 hertz music on, which I talk about in the book, and why that frequency makes a difference. And I took time to meditate before getting up. And I knew I had a long day today. I knew I had multiple meetings back to back. But if I started out with just clearing my thoughts, being very intentional and what I wanted to get out of today, and stretching, because I love to stretch, you may decide to go for a run. You might decide to do some HIIT training, to get that blood flowing. Or if you like hot showers, do that in the morning. Like, what is that little thing you're going to do to take time out before you start your day to treat yourself, right? To decompress and give back, sort of fill that well that we were talking about earlier. So that's one thing, is making sure before you are about to jump into something that's going to take an intense amount of energy, do something that's mindful for you. Go for a walk, go for a run, do yoga, dance, maybe just slowly eat one of your favorite meals. Mindful
Mm.
eating is a thing, right? Listening to your favorite songs. I don't care what it is. If it gets you moving, listen to that before you start your day. So those are some things that you can do as well, is find a mindful activity. And it doesn't mean it has to be yoga, but find a mindful activity that can increase your mood, refill that well, and give you that stamina to last through that day or through that project or that meeting that you're about to embark on. But a lot of writers who do that, like, they'll run before sitting down to write a chapter, or they'll do some sort of, maybe they'll garden or another physical activity that really puts them
Hmm.
into the present moment. And then when they're writing, they're completely in the flow. So those are some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, those are amazing. Um, for me, I love to start my mornings with qigong, like a meditative, martial arts that really gets me tapped into the present. And I love that you said, like, tapping into your five senses, changing your environment so that you have plants. I have plants around me. I have a fly fishing poster up here, my whiteboard. I just invested in like this $500 office chair. This thing is plush. Let me tell you, I picked it up on Facebook Marketplace. True story, for like $175. I lowballed these college kids who probably stole it. Because it's brand new, but I'm like, you guys, like, there's like four of these. Where'd you get these? I didn't ask any more questions than that. But I'm telling you, this changed the game for me in my chair. Like, I want to sit down and work. Think about what it is for you guys out there. Like, what can you do to boost your creativity in your environment? Give yourself all the benefits. You said 5 gigahertz is the frequency you listen to?
528 hertz.
528 hertz.
Yeah, it's often
So,
referenced as frequency of creation or
ooh,
creativity.
love that. So those are, some really cool, tangible, like actual hacks that you can use to boost your, creativity right away and actually get more done. And then I really like this. I don't know if you use a rebounder, but I use my rebounder every day. Like in between calls, in between meetings, I have a rebounder, like a mini trampoline
Yeah.
that I just bounce on. I shake out my lymphatic drainage system
To
and
get one of those. I know exactly
oh
what you're talking
gosh,
about.
get that girl. If you don't
That's
have
like,
one,
well, you're doing that in between meetings. I need to do this.
oh my God, it's the jam. It's like you cannot not be happy when
Yeah.
you're jumping on a trampoline. Let's face it. How
Right.
do you how are you not happy? Like it's hilarious. So if you guys are out there and you don't have a mini trampoline, invest in one. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. So, and if you are going to get one, the ones with the actual bungees, not the metal springs, it will be better for the actual knees over time. Food for thought there. However, just get one with springs if it's cheaper and that's what you can afford right now. Get that one.
Yeah.
Point is, create your environment so that it dictates happiness and boosts creativity. So, love that. Now, Nova, give us like a little backstory. Kind of life was like growing up for you, and then tell us what was your first hustle, like the first thing you did for money.
Oh, I'll tell you. It'll remind you too. Okay, so I'm one of six, and as you mentioned, I was born in Jamaica, and I was the last of my siblings, number four to be born there. And there's four of us that are in a cluster that are really close. We're separated by anywhere from 18 months to 3 years, like the four out of the six. We have two outliers. And so I'm just laughing because I'm thinking back, like, what? So my brother, my second oldest brother is 3 years older than me,
Mhm.
and he got a paper route. And so he has another brother. He has another brother. My other brother, who's younger than him, they're about 11 months apart. So those two had paper routes. And there was the two, myself and my younger brother, again, I'm part of the four, right? And they hired us to help them do their paper route. And so, but I'm going to set the scene here because we lived in Connecticut. It's cold.
Oh yeah.
It's dark. Okay. The sun rises earlier in Florida, I think, and sets later. It's cold and dark. And it's winter. They hired us, and we were just so excited to be hired. And these were the heavy papers, not today where it's like super thin. No, the
Yeah.
4-inch stacked Sunday papers with all the coupons and flyers.
Oh
You
yeah.
had your muslin, side pouch that you had to put your papers in. And then, oh, get this, we had to collate the papers. Like we literally had to put all the sections in order, all right? At like 5 in the morning. And they had to
Oh
be delivered
geez.
by like 6 a.m. Okay. I think my brother was 10. So you have the 10-year-old, the 9-year-old, me, which is 7, and then my younger brother, who's probably like 5, all
Whoa.
hustling to do this paper route.
Love it.
Two
Love it.
paper routes.
Dang.
And they were dogs without leashes. Again,
Mhm.
different time period. So you had
Yep.
to like dodge the dogs, and you had to navigate this through like dark mornings and freezing cold weather. And at the end of the week, we get paid. And I will never forget this. We're so excited upstairs in the hallway on our tummies, wood floor, and we're all staring at each other as my oldest counts the money because you get tips. This is how you get paid, through the tips, right?
Mm.
And so he's counting our pay one by one quarter by one quarter. And when we
Oh
were
geez.
done, we had a stack of 4 quarters.
Oh
That was
gosh.
our pay.
Winning. Hey, builds character. Love it. Love it. That's great.
For the days
Well,
of penny candy, though, so it was like $100 for us. I was like, oh yes, 4 quarters,
right. I
four
mean,
candy bars. Like, at that age, that's all you cared about, was just going
yeah.
to the candy, the dollar store, not the dollar store, what they call it, the corner store, to get the penny candy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Heard that. Well, very cool. So, Nova, I want to talk about like podcasting in its entirety. You're a podcasting expert. You have a podcast that is crushing it. You have a podcast platform. Talk to us a little bit about your podcasting journey and maybe a little bit of insights, tips, tools, or tactics that you could share that you learned along the journey for the aspiring podcasters out there.
Yeah, no, great question. I fell in love with podcasting maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time, it was still very much in the digital radio space. And I grew up around music. My father DJ'd on the weekends. There was always music playing in my house. My younger brother also DJ'd. It was just a thing for us. So for me, audio and music and sound was something that was just a part of who I am as a person. And so when I started looking into digital radio, I actually wanted to launch a digital radio station. And I was like, oh, cool. And I called up my brother, the DJ. I was like, yeah, I need you to create some, some tracks for me. I need to play for like 6 hours. I'm going to have all these shows. And he was like, yeah, no. And it was just, the technology just wasn't there for me to be able to access it in the way that I wanted. But I do remember, testing out the space, doing a couple podcasts and absolutely loving it. And I just did a conference call. I just recorded the call. Again, it's for all these, great tools that we have now, and just absolutely loved that experience. So I said, I knew I definitely wanted to do this. And it was just a matter of time catching up with me, technology, catching up with what I wanted to do. And so in 2019, I was like, okay, the time is now. I'm not going to procrastinate. And the perfect excuse was I had this book I was working on that I want to get published. And hey, if I had a podcast, maybe it will help me getting a book deal or at least promote the book. So I'm going to launch the podcast ahead of the book. And that's what I did. And it was terrifying because I had no idea what I was doing. And even with these different tools, it was a whole different language. And I'm a big nerd, so I don't mind doing the research. So I spent hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks researching everything, reading reviews, and sort of picking out where I was going to start. Fortunately, I was also introduced to someone who was I guess an expert, definitely an expert compared to me in terms of launching shows. And I paid him as a consultant to help me launch my first 4 or 5 episodes.
Oh,
and that was invaluable because I feel that as a creative, when the block could be the technology or sometimes it's other things, it's unfortunate if you don't move forward because of that potential block or challenge, right? And so thankfully I had that guidance. And then that led to an introduction to a podcast network. And when I learned the advantage of being a part of a network and growing with us in a space of other shows and having that support, I was like, hey, I want to do that. But I also have these 5 other shows that I want to produce. And so they were like, okay, well, you can launch your own network. And then I was like, okay, cool, be a network within a network. And that's how that journey started because I'm a storyteller. I love sharing ideas. I love creating narratives. And so for me, creating a podcast and then creating multiple shows together as a network was just a natural fit for me. And to be able to bring it to life so much faster than television or film, which I love those 2 mediums, but there's definitely a longer lead time to take that story from paper to real life. I love the fact that you can do it so much quicker within a podcast. And we all know the War of the Worlds, right? With Orson Welles on the radio and everyone like ducking underneath their chairs and tables because they thought that there was an alien invasion back in the day. The power of sound, when you understand that and realize that as a storyteller, is so impactful. And if you can use that to really move the needle forward in a way that can drive positive change, why not? And so that was a story that always stuck with me. And I was like, ooh, if I can create something that can impact people, knowing how powerful sound is and do it through that medium, and then bring in the storytelling component. So that's what I did. I launched Unleash Your Supernova in November 2019 with my 5 shows.
Nice.
And in January, I was nominated for Best Podcast of the Year, which I was
Woo!
like, what? I didn't even know what I was doing. But I will say though, even though I was new, I did pay attention to formatting and sound and I did my research and what other people are doing and what are the shows that are growing, why they're growing, and what can I bring in as a newbie that can mirror some of these elements of success. So I did make that effort, and it wasn't just I just turned on a mic and and so that's always for me, it's always quality first within what I can do within my resources and continue to evolve from there. So super grateful and excited. And then the pandemic happened, right? And so lockdown came March. And that for me was the catalyst to take this idea of creating a network and accelerate that. Because and not just for my own desire of putting stories out there, which is still there, but more so I wanted to bring together a community of hosts that have that same desire of impacting individuals in a positive way together with like-minded listeners. And I see myself as thinking outside the box, as always following, oh, if that's the wide path, I'm taking the narrow path,
Yep.
and I would categorize myself and a lot of other creative entrepreneurs that I know as wild thinkers. And so it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the home for wild thinkers. May it be you be a listener and or a storyteller or creator. I want to bring the two of you together. And then within that, I want to create a community, a micro community of hosts that can support each other, understand each other, and grow together and share those resources to grow together. And so Pink Kangaroo, the idea was born over a year ago, but it finally came to life with a soft launch December of 2020.
Mm. Super cool. I mean, what a awesome way to, go head first into podcasting, researching it, then get nominated for best podcast of the year, then create your own network. It's a inspiring journey. And I know it's only just starting too, as you're like, really starting to even pick up more and more momentum. I think all the happy hustlers out there should really take stock. Podcasts aren't going anywhere. People love this medium. Amazon, Spotify, Apple are all investing heavily. It's not like a saturated market that you can't, dive into right now. If you're listening to this, there's still someone out there who needs your voice and needs it through a podcast. So take action. Really launch that podcast, push past the fear, right? We all have that fear of compare and despair. Who am I to, put out a show, or what
Right.
value could I do? Like, everyone has that in some capacity. I'm sure you and I both still have that.
Yeah,
So
no, it's so true. It's so true. Everything that you're saying.
yeah, you got to push past the fear and just take action, and really just happy hustle your dream reality. If it is, living life on your terms like Nova and I do, and having a platform where you can share your message, then take action and launch that podcast. And, I definitely recommend checking out Pink Kangaroo Network and listening to her show, Unleash Your Supernova. Um, in addition to, where can everyone get the book if they do want to go
Yeah.
get that book?
Your favorite bookstore,
Yeah.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, um,
Awesome.
all the major stores will have it on their shelves March 16th, and it's
Woo!
available now for pre-order. So you can get it and it'll ship it right to you if you pre-order.
Yep, I did that just earlier today, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta get this book." So awesome, Nova. Well, what I like to do now is actually ask you a couple questions in different disciplines.
Yeah.
Now, I like to call them happy hustle hacks. Something that you do that really helps you excel in, you know, any of the particular areas. And first thing I want to talk about is health, because I know you're big into health and taking care of yourself and optimizing your mental and physical performance. Talk to us about a happy hustle hack that you use that you could potentially share with the happy hustlers out there.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing one right now. Um, I'm doing a mini fast. So
Oh, cool.
I'm usually a good eater. I don't do a lot of processed foods or junk food, things like that. But these last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been chips or whatever, cookies.
Yeah.
Like, what am I buying Oreos and bringing it? I will eat it if it's in front of me. Like, why am I doing this? And so, and the last week, I was just very tired. I was just feeling really tired. And so this week, the beginning of the week, I said, I'm going to fast. I'm going to be more intentional on what I put in my body. And because my body is now craving these foods, because that's what happens, right? We create the bacteria in our gut that will crave the
Yeah.
salt or the sugar or whatever it
Yep.
is we're binging on. And so I'm just going to clean house a little bit. And I'm not going to go too extreme, but I'm just going to do a lot of water and tea and broth. And so when I'm choosing my foods, I'm going to be more intentional about it. And if I'm saying, okay, if I just clean, if I was eating really clean, why would I go and put this in my body?
Yeah.
Right. So it's an easy way for me to sort of break the habit
Mm.
and sort of get rid of that, those bacteria that's in my gut saying, give me more, give me more.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
So, I mean, you don't have to not eat the whole day, but find a broth that you like, your favorite teas, and just do like clear liquids if you can. I do a miso soup because and I'll have the seaweed.
Mm.
Just things that are really clean, simple single ingredient items. And the less the better for those 2 or 3 days, and just do a quick cleanse, quick fast. And then you're going to be more intentional on what you're eating those days after. So you're truly putting the fuel in your body that you need to be the most productive or the most creative. So that's just a quick hack that I'm doing
Yeah.
literally right now, day 2.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I know fasting's a big part of, my overall routine. I usually decrease my feeding window to 8 hours every day. So I fast, every morning. It's usually a 16-hour fast. And then on Sundays, usually once a month, I'll do just a full 24-hour fast. I know there's also Steph did the Prolon fast mimicking diet, where you can basically, they give you little packets that you could do a 7-day fast with them or a 5-day fast, and they kind of help support you with giving you the nutrients you need, but still not breaking your fast. So that's an option if you guys want to go, research that one. I have no affiliation. They just sent us a couple of fasts back, when they were promoting it, and we tried it, or she tried it. I didn't. I gave her mine. But anyway, fasting. It's a great hack there. So I love that you said that. Let's talk about money. I think money is a tool, and how I look at money is the more you make, the more you can give. And I know we're similar in that approach. You have a big heart and very philanthropic. Talk to me. Ooh, bald eagle is just soaring right by my window. That's why I live in Montana. I mean, I love it. It's so epic. It's America. Um, so talk to me about money. What is a happy hustle hack that you use to save, spend, invest wisely? Something that you could share with the happy hustlers.
Okay. So I'm into crypto now.
Ooh,
So I've been having a lot of fun with that. Um, yeah, a lot of fun. But that could
have
take
you been making some money?
I
Ooh.
have. um, so again, just going back to my nerdy side, I like researching, and if you understand use cases, like how is this item being used, and does it make sense? Does it have a sustainable time period where it will be around? And then what are those factors within our political system or economic system that could be affecting the sustainability of that item, that coin, or that technology? And then using that to guide you. So one of the things I do as a hack within crypto, and then I'll give another money hack
Yeah,
more,
tell us what we need to buy.
uh, is for me anyway, if you get a coin early, then that has, that sort of checks off from the sustainability box. When I say sustainability, is it has a use case that it's going to be used for something that makes sense, that has a strong purpose. Okay. And find it when it has the triple zeros if you can, right? So it's worth 0.0003 or something, and or 0.003. But if you can get the triple zeros, that eventually is going to grow to even 1 cent. And so you just imagine how much you've made, right? 500 times, 1,000 times your money based on how much you put into that particular coin. So think of penny stocks, but fractional, right? So it's less than a penny.
Mm.
And if you get in on the right one, it's going to grow. So even if it goes from 3 zeros, it starts at 3 zeros. Let's use Dogecoin, for example. It'll go to 2 zeros and then 1 zero. So Doge is now worth somewhere between 5 and 6 cents. But if you purchased it when it was 0.005 or
Did you?
0.005, I got in when it was 0.005, but
Woo!
got in when it was 0.0003. Okay.
Oh,
So those are the coins. Like if you're able to, Bitcoin is there, 50 plus thousand, great. You could buy a fraction of it. If it goes up 5%, great. But if you could find those strong use cases and you can get them early, like a Cardano, for example, is a great example that just took off most recently. And, sometimes you have to be a little patient. Sometimes it just takes a couple months or a couple weeks, but
Cardano. How do you spell that? I'm looking this up.
Cardano, Cardano. But it had its pop from when it was like, again, in the double zeros, triple zeros, and now it's, I don't know, maybe $1 or something. But anyway, my point is you can get a lot of growth when the coins are a fraction of a penny. That's the
Hmm.
point I'm trying to make. Another hack is for those of us that have money blocks. And as you mentioned, Cary, the more you make, the more you can give. I love that philosophy because sometimes we do go back into the I'm not worthy, or based on how you were raised or the financial situation you grew up in, it may affect how you think and feel about money. And so you may subconsciously be repelling money, so to speak, because of whatever those conditions are. So if you, as you, okay, one thing is put $100 bill if you have it, or $10 or $20 in your wallet where you can see it frequently. So you're always seeing it. So the trick is that you always have money, right? And you
Mm.
always have $100 to spend. Let's just say it's $100, or you have always have $10 to spend, and then mentally spend that. So again, there might be, oh, I've never had $100, or I never had $1,000. There's no way, no, know what that feels like. Well, you can mentally spend 100 and spend 1,000, and what you're doing is you're creating the mindset of abundance,
Yep.
right? And so if you drove by a building and say, oh, that building may cost, I don't know, $500,000. I'm going to buy that building. You just mentally spent $500,000. So you're sort of breaking those conditions of not having, ever having, or seeing, or spending that amount of money by mentally playing that game and creating that mindset of abundance. So by seeing it and mentally spending it, you're able to break down some of those conditions that you might have around money, the fear of money, or not having money, or running out of money.
Mm. Very cool. I love those. I mean, the crypto market, I just watched a whole Amazon documentary on crypto and Bitcoin and all of the things. And I've been educating myself more and more. I bought some Bitcoin back in the day. Um, then I sold it like a knucklehead, which was a
You and a lot of
mistake.
people trust. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now I'm like, I'm on the sidelines of crypto, kind of waiting to see what transpires. But you inspired me to buy some, 0.003 stocks or coins.
The fractional
Uh,
ones that have
yeah,
strong use cases. Yeah, you can't. What are you going to lose?
yeah, exactly. I'm actually investing in sports cards now too. I have my buddy buying sports cards for me with some of my income or some of my stock portfolio is going allocated to sports cards. I was like, hey, dude, I see you're crushing with the sports card game. So we're doing a whole live YouTube trading. He's like a pro on it this week, and I'm invested in sports cards.
No,
But I like to diversify. That's
no,
the
I think
that's
that's
the
great.
point. Um, but I do think, breaking down your mental blocks around money is essential. We all have them in some capacity, whether it's how we were raised or the simple saying of money doesn't grow on trees, like we all get programmed in some capacity. So I think it's a great tactic to mentally spend and visualize. Now, speaking of visualizing and, spirituality more so, talk to us about a happy hustle hack, maybe not to one God or another. I don't know exactly what you believe in. For me, I just believe in a higher power, and I think that's important to tap in. I do believe there's a God and whatnot. And I pray and I bless the food. I'm always remaining in a state of gratitude. But for you, do you have a happy hustle hack regarding spirituality that you can share?
I read and read and read and read. And I feel that I see spiritual as what we would attach to non physical, right? What we can't see or touch. And I believe that there's a non physical part of us that we can tap into on many levels. And growing that, part of the creativity hacks and beating burnout, that helps grow that side of us. And so for me, I love diving into books that may be from a metaphorical book like The Alchemist
Great
to
book.
something like, Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Yep.
Right now I'm reading the autobiography of a yogi. So
Oh, cool.
looking at different ways of exploring the non-physical space to have better understanding around it from different perspectives. And I believe, you can get that from almost any genre if you're looking for it. So the Nightingale, which is a historical fiction book about the time period World War II in France, tells about perseverance and will and the power of um, how human we could be, like just how we can sacrifice ourselves for a stranger. Like it's just when you see the power of the human will, you're like, oh my gosh, we're just amazing. And then what does
Yeah.
it take for someone to do that? To put
Yeah.
themselves in a line of fire for a stranger.
Mm.
And then so you can get that from any genre, I feel, if you're looking for it. But for me, a hack is delving into books and finding those little nuggets that I could take away that I could apply to help increase those non-physical or supernatural gifts.
Love that. Reading and just being intentional with your reading, like exploring different perspectives. Great happy hustle hack there. Now, Nova, I want to rock the rapid fire round, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. This is basically where I just ask you random questions and you answer honestly first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's do this.
Favorite movie? Go.
Gone with the Wind.
Favorite food?
Chocolate.
Ooh, favorite book?
I'm gonna Alchemist. I know I'm taking too long.
That's a good one. What's your spirit animal?
Wolf.
Oh, best business advice?
Bend like a bamboo tree. Be flexible.
Ah, very nice. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Telepathy.
Huh. One word you wish to be synonymous with your name for the rest of your life?
Super.
If you could have a billboard with your last message, your last piece of content to be shared to the whole world, what does that billboard say, Nova?
Love yourself.
Ah, very awesome. And 3 things you're most grateful for right now.
Life, family, and evolution, growth. I'm grateful to continue my journey of growth.
Boom. Love that. Crush the rapid fire round. Nova, where can people go to find out more about you? Give us some links. I know the book is unleashyoursupernova.com, but give us some other links where people can find out more about you.
Yes, unleashyoursupernova.com, Raine Magazine. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Instagram, The Real Nova Lorraine. And for those of you that want to follow up on some great books and crypto advice, you got to check out the Pink Kangaroo. That's Kangaroo with the U podcast network. We have some great shows on both. And yeah, if you just Google Nova Lorraine, you can find me.
Very cool. Love that, Nova. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with the Happy Hustlers, with your supernova with the Happy Hustlers. This has been an awesome interview and I really enjoyed it. And what I'm super grateful about is that you're part of the Happy Hustle Mastermind because I get to see you on the regular and it's awesome. So that's even cooler. Now, Nova, final question. But before I ask you, do you have any final thoughts or, closing words that you want to share?
Well, I want to thank you. And I absolutely love what you do as it relates to the happy hustle. I mean, I use that word hustle all the time and we hear that. And it's so important. I think the word happy being placed in front of that, going back to our conversation around burnout, as entrepreneurs, as creatives, we can easily move into that space without even knowing it. And so we're so intent on what we want to do. We sort of forget sometimes to take a moment and breathe. So I appreciate everything that you're doing with the Happy Hustle and showing us like tactful things that we can do to move the needle forward. So for those of you listening, I am part of the mastermind and we were just talking about the goals that I've set and accomplished because of the mastermind. So thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome having you. Final question, Nova. And this one, I mean, you probably answered it in 17 different ways already in the interview, but I'm curious, what does happy hustling mean to you?
Oh, I think it's doing what you love because let me tell you, if you're doing what you love, you're going to be hustling, right? You're not going to be waiting to do it. When someone says, oh, I'm going to go to Disney World or I'm going to go on that roller coaster or I'm going to go to my favorite restaurant, you're not like taking your time. You're hustling. Like you have that energy and that fire, and doing it happily is, like I said, it's so important. So it's not just the hustle to work hard and work all the time. The point is doing what you love and doing it in balance, taking those moments to check in and finding balance. So what you love doesn't turn into what you hate, right? There's a thin line between love and hate. And so happy hustle to me is doing what you love and making sure that you're in balance, mind, body, soul.
Ooh, love it. You said my favorite word, balance. Mic drop. Nova Lorraine, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. Now go out there and happy hustle your dream reality while unleashing your supernova, baby. Peace and love. We out.